Hi, welcome to Sitefinity 101. This video is aimed at developers and users and provides an introduction to Sitefinity development and administration. We'll learn how to build and edit a website with no prior experience in web development or Sitefinity required. But before we begin, a few words about me. My name is Denis Kyoshif. I work as a senior software engineer and consultant for New Venture Software. Here is how you can find me online. I'm also a Sitefinity and Kendo UI certified developer. I have delivered technical presentations on progress user group events such as the Bug Challenge, both in the United States and in Europe. New Venture Software is a custom software development and consulting company. We're one of the few companies out there that when it claims that it cares for quality actually means it. Our primary focus is on .NET technologies. We have experience with web, mobile and also desktop, and we have expertise in some of the Progress products as well. We're an official Progress partner because we provide consulting and development services to Progress customers from all around the world. So what's this presentation going to include? First, we'll get to know what Sitefinity is and what problems does it solve, when it's good to use it and when we are better off using something else. We'll see how to create and edit pages from the admin panel and how to make use of the UI widgets to make our pages look just the way we want them. We'll see how to make use of the built-in content modules and libraries to store and access any kinds of application data within our Sitefinity instance. Then we'll go through the dynamic modules and see how to extend and customize Sitefinity to serve more complex requirements. And in the end, I have prepared to show you some basic configuration options related to users, permissions, and roles. Again, Sitefinity is vast, and all of its features cannot be covered in a single lesson of reasonable length. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. I've prepared a few slides explaining some of the major features of the CMS. So let's begin. Sitefinity is a web content management system. It enables the construction of dynamic and fully editable websites and allows users to make changes to these websites without requiring them to know anything about web development. If you have experience using websites like Facebook, for example, you already know how to use Sitefinity. It's based on the .NET platform and being a standard web application, it's built on top of the ASP.NET Web Framework and makes use of both web forms and MVC technologies for generating page layout. It's important to note here that Sitefinity was initially implemented as a web forms application, and the MVC module under the codename of Project Feather was included at a later stage at the time when Microsoft released the new web framework. It comes with built-in responsive design module, which we're going to cover in the demo. We'll see how easy it is to create scalable websites that look beautiful on any device. Sitefinity also provides additional modules based on the business domain, like the e-commerce and online marketing modules. The former are very powerful tools for developing sites which show personalized content based on user interaction, but they are included in the more advanced editions of Sitefinity. It's fully customizable, which means that whatever we want, we can modify or replace it with our own custom implementation. And last but not least, Sitefinity is successful. Currently, it powers over 11,000 commercial sites on the web, and this number is constantly growing. Sitefinity allows us to easily create, edit, and publish content. It has an intuitive interface and an integrated what you see is what you get editor, which provides us with full control over the formatting and the alignment of texts in our application. We can also apply changes very quickly without having to access the backend at all using the inline editing features. We can make use of the drag and drop UI to build the layout of our pages and templates with no need to write a single line of HTML code. We'll see more of that in the demo. Sitefinity also helps us ensure content quality with advanced approval workflows. We can set different permissions to users with specific roles and many more. It also keeps track of every change in the system. That means that at any time we can revert any page or content item to an older version. Sitefinity's digital asset libraries allow us to store any kinds of data within the system, whether it will be images, videos, or any types of documents. We can manage them all from a central location and share them across pages and even websites. We can easily organize the data using the hierarchical libraries and classify them with categories and tags. Sitefinity's Digital Experience Cloud is an external module which comes built in with some of the more advanced licenses of Sitefinity. What it does is that it provides audiences with relevant content. It measures how the users interact with the website. It sees where they click, how long do they stay on a specific content, and where do they come from, and any kinds of information. They make sense of it, and the next time the users visit the website, it ensures that they get a content that is more relevant to them. Having a responsive website nowadays is more important than ever. As you know, more and more people nowadays access the web using their mobile devices, and also search engines like Google, for example, give higher rankings to sites that are optimized for such devices. Having that in mind, Sitefinity has a responsive design module which is essential to the system. It basically allows us to deliver great experiences on any device, and it significantly reduces the time that it takes to build such a website. Another useful feature is the Google Analytics integration. We can consume data and access metrics and different kinds of reports within our Sitefinity backend, and thus having the convenience to manage everything from a single place. With the multi-site management in Sitefinity, we can host several websites within a single Sitefinity instance. That way, we can significantly reduce the time it takes to deploy any kinds of functionality. Also, we can reduce the amount of storage that we need by sharing different kinds of data, like settings or users or digital assets across these websites. That way, we also reduce the infrastructure costs and make the maintenance of these websites significantly easier to manage. With the multilingual module in Sitefinity, we can localize website content and digital assets in multiple languages. We can choose from anything that supports Microsoft language codes, including the cultures. With it, we can manage translations in all new language versions of pages. We can translate content items and even have the localized versions of our digital assets and manage them from a single place that is the Sitefinity backend. My favorite part of this module is the capability of integrating it with external translation services. That way, when we publish a content in A1 language, we can automate the translation so it appears immediately translated in all the other language versions of our website. Being a standard .NET Web application, Sitefinity provides us with a variety of deployment options. We can use the built-in staging and syncing module to synchronize multiple instances of Sitefinity. For example, if we have one for developments and one for production, it makes sure that changes applied to the one instance get reapplied to the other instance without requiring us to do it manually. We can host Sitefinity locally, but we can also host it on Microsoft's Azure cloud and also Amazon Web Services. We can automate the deployment with standard tools such as Visual Studio Online and Octopus Deploy. If we are hosting our site on Azure and we develop with Visual Studio, we can take advantage of the latest Azure SDK and configure our deployments to happen with just a click of a button. Sitefinity is scalable. That means that it can run on a single instance or also on a load balanced environment. It also has advanced caching options, starting with the database layer and finishing with the front-end templating. For example, if we serve a template by plugging in data from the database and compiling the template, then serving it to the user, Sitefinity takes care that this happens only once. It has a built-in pre-compilation tool which stores the compiled templates and serves them directly on the next request. It does not update until the web page has been changed from the backend, for example. The integration platform is one of the most advanced features of Sitefinity. It allows us to connect to other CRM systems and push and pull data to them. We can make, for example, SharePoint documents and any kinds of digital assets easily available on any public websites and mobile devices by just synchronizing them with Sitefinity. The best thing is that we are not even required to access the systems because once we have done our integration, we can manage all this data from within Sitefinity backend. The existing integrations are with Microsoft SharePoint, Salesforce, and the team recently added integration with Progress OpenEdge as well. In terms of templating, Sitefinity offers several options. We can choose between web forms, MVC, and hybrid modes. So what's the difference? If we go with web forms, we have the complete toolbox of features. As I mentioned earlier, Sitefinity initially began as a web forms application. That means that all the features mentioned earlier are available if we decide to go with the web forms API. On the other hand, Project Feather is modern. It's also actively developed and it's more future friendly. However, it has not caught up completely with the web forms part yet. The good thing is that the Sitefinity team keeps track of the progress on their website, which is publicly available to us, and we can see how the project evolves over time. So on the left, you can see all the widgets that are classified by their category, and on the right, you can see the progress bars and also some other additional information, for example, whether it's started or in progress. The important thing to note here is that if you decide to build an e-commerce app using Sitefinity, Project Feather is not the way to go. The only way to build it is by using web forms. As you can see, the widgets are not even started yet, and I really don't know if they plan to do them or not. And there's the hybrid mode left. So I would strongly advise you not to use it for anything. It's considered very harmful because basically it combines two frameworks for building a web page, and it can cause a severe performance bottlenecks in the application. You might ask why it even exists, and the sole reason is to offer a migration path from web forms to MVC. Sitefinity Thunder is the name of the Visual Studio plugin for Sitefinity developers. It helps creating Sitefinity plugins and external modules by generating boilerplate codes. It works with the recent versions of Visual Studio up until 2015. It doesn't work, however, with the 2017 release candidate version, as I tried recently. So if you plan to try it and to use it, currently it's safer to go with the 2015 version. So the last part of our brief introduction is about the Sitefinity's API. It comes in three flavors: native, fluent, and restful. The native API is very flexible. It's written in imperative style, while the fluent one is more declarative or functional. It's just a layer of abstraction on top of the native API, and it produces much more readable and concise code, but on the other hand offers less flexibility. The RESTful API is just a bunch of web services which allow other applications to communicate with our Sitefinity instance. It is fully documented and very easy to extend based on Microsoft's ASP.NET Provider model, and it basically allows us to store, access, and query all the application data. Whatever we can do from the Sitefinity's backend, we can also accomplish using code. And this is very powerful thing because it unleashes developers to create any kinds of external modules and plugins and integrate them with Sitefinity using the API. Now is the time for our live demo. So for the topic of the website which we're going to build, I've decided to show you something a bit more exciting than a simple to-do app, which you can find on pretty much every tutorial on the web nowadays. So I went for bacon. It is a topic which I'm very excited about, and I also hope that it will make the administration of the website a bit more pleasant and exciting. Now let's begin. We'll see how to edit content inline and from the backend. We'll see how to use the digital asset libraries to organize our data within the application. We'll see how to use the built-in data types inside Sitefinity and also how to create and edit pages. Then we will extend our application using the dynamic modules. And in the end, I will show you how to make use of the responsive design layouts and also some basic configuration about users and permissions. This is how our website looks like. We have a navigation bar at the top. We have a logo, which has the website's name, double smoked. We have some subtitle here. We have a basic image gallery, which contains pictures, very satisfying pictures indeed, that have bacon in them. And when we go to the bottom, we can see here that we have the latest bacon news section, which is just a blog that shows us the latest news items about bacon that we have published. So if I click on a news item, I will be redirected to its detailed page, and we'll see that right now it's pretty dull. It contains just some raw text, but we can change it immediately with clicking on this button. You can see that we are already logged in the system, otherwise we won't be able to see it. And if I click on edit content, my page will turn into edit mode right now. So now you can see that it's changed a little bit. We have this top bar right here, which is not part of the page layout. It's added by Sitefinity, and let's try to change something. For example, the title. Let's change the year to make it 2017. If I click outside, it's being saved. Now I just click over this text here. Now I'm allowed to edit the content of it. So you can see that here we have plenty of options to change the formatting. For example, we can bold it, we can change the alignment of the text, and we can go much further and even add an existing image to the body of this news item. So if I click on that, you can see that I am provided with two options. I can choose to upload an image from my computer, or I can use an already uploaded image from one of my libraries. So I choose gallery, and I decide to use this image, for example. And I can decide how it gets aligned, its title, but for now we are good to go. And you can see that it immediately appeared on the page. So if I click outside and save it as a draft, we'll save our item, but it won't get published on the website. If we want our users to see it, we have to click Publish All. And I have successfully updated my news item and made it a little bit more interesting. If I go to the news page, I will see that all of my news are listed there, and the top one is the article that I have just edited. You can see that the title is now changed, and it should also get reflected on the home page as well. So yeah, here it is. And that's basically how the inline editing works. We saw how we can make any kinds of changes to the content on our website without even having to access the backend. But now let's see what it has to offer. If I click on the URL bar and just type Sitefinity, I will be redirected to the Sitefinity's backend. And now this is my dashboard, and here you can see all of the widgets that help me administer the website. For example, as we mentioned earlier about that, we can connect Sitefinity to Google Analytics and display relevant analytics data here in the timeline. Currently, it doesn't show any meaningful because this is just a demo site hosted locally. We can also see when the content has been published and edited, either from the user which I'm logged in with, or we can also see everyone's content if we have a larger site which is being administered by multiple users. Now, if I click on pages, I can see here that all of my pages are listed. For now, there are just two, but still, if I click on home, we'll see what the same that as we saw on the live site. Just a bit more different and having a bit more options for editing. We can see that we have the news widget right here, so let's try to make some changes to it. If I click edit, we'll see the configuration options of this news widget provided to us. We can decide which news items we're going to display. We can select specific news items, and we can also filter them by different classifications if we decide to. So for now, we'll just display all the published images, but for example, we want to use another limit. So let's see that, say that we are going to display just the last two images. We also have the more options menu here, which allows us to set some custom CSS classes if we want to. So for now, I'll just click save, and you can see that my changes got immediately reflected on the page. And if I click publish, my changes will be saved. So now let's learn about the digital asset libraries in Sitefinity. To do so, we will access again our backend and open the contents drop-down menu and see here that we have plenty of options to choose from. The ones that I'm going to emphasize are documents and files, videos and images. These are our digital asset libraries. I'll click on images as I've already uploaded a couple of images, and we'll see that we have two libraries already created. The first one is the default library, and the other one hosts the images on the homepage slider. So now let's go and try to add a new image to this library. The only thing that we should do is click on the upload image button, choose an image that we have prepared from our computer, and click upload and publish. That's the only thing required. If I go to view all the images, I'll see that my image has already appeared on the backend. Now let's try to open it and see what we've got. Here Sitefinity has generated a permalink to this item, and we can also see some code for embedding in HTML format. We can customize it, we can change the title and the alternative text of this image, and we can also change the library if we want to. We can set an author and different classifications. If I click on this button right here, I can see that we can open the file and also do some basic editing of this image. We can, for example, crop it, resize it, or even rotate it. But we're good to go for now. I'll just click publish, and now I'll see if the changes got reflected on the front end. So let's go to the home page on the live site. Yeah, it's just loaded, and we see that our image just got updated, and now our users can enjoy it. So how does it actually work? Let's go to the home page from the backend again and review the image gallery widgets more closely. Now I'll open the home page and see again, just as it was in the news items widget, which we just edited, we are provided with similar options when it comes to the image library widget. We can change the options about which images we want to display. Do we want them to be from all the libraries or just a specific one? In our case, the gallery. And it just works because we have configured the widget to choose images from this specific library. It allows us to choose from any libraries except the default ones. If we choose to display the images from all libraries, we will get them all displayed on the front end. And that's the way it works. So now it's time to see the Sitefinity's built-in content types. Again, we can access them from the backend if we go to the content menu and choose one of these ones like news, blogs, events, forms, lists, and content blocks. We also have several more, but I'll click on the news because we have already created some news items in our site, and now we see all of the news items listed in our application. So this is the one that we've just edited inline, and we see that here we are provided with the same editing options and capabilities as it was in the front end. Of course, we have some many more options right here, like some more advanced formatting options in the WYSIWYG editor. We can add a summary to our item, and we can also edit its raw HTML by using the inline editor. We can set some classifications and also control the URL structure of the item if we decide to. So now let's see how to create a new item in Sitefinity. I'll just click on create new. And now you see that all of the fields are blank. And let's put a title on it. I'll call it my first bacon news item, although it's not the first. And now I have to get some text, and I know the best place to get it from. It's called bacon ipsum. So now let's generate some random text. Alright, I decided to take this and we'll paste it right here. Now we can apply any kind of modifications. Like for example, I can change the background of this text to yellow to emphasize it a bit more, and I can also write some HTML inside if I want to. So let's see what happens if I add a h1 tag. We get our changes immediately reflected in the editor. So I can add some categories and tags as well. Currently I have not created any category, but I'll do it right now. For example, just call it test. It has no parents. I decide to create it and click publish. Now let's see what happened to my news item. Let's go to the home page. And as you remember, here in this section, we display the latest 2 bacon items in our website. So if I refresh the page, I should see my new item gets immediately added to the front end. And I can of course access it by clicking on its title. We see we have the title, which we added by writing some raw HTML, and we also have the text formatted just as the way we want it. We can also leave some comments here, like this, and we can see that they're immediately added to the news item. Of course, Sitefinity is configurable, and if you want to disable commenting of specific news items, it's very easy to do it. And that's it about the static content modules. Basically, all the other ones like blogs and events work the same way. They just have some different properties, and that's it. We can, of course, create our custom ones, which we'll see later in the demo. We have accomplished quite a lot so far. We already applied inline editing to our website. We also changed the way a page looks from the backend. We uploaded an image to a library and also created a new data item using the Sitefinity's built-in content types. So now let's create a page from scratch and add it and see what we can do with it. I'll open the backend and see that we have already created 2 pages. And so let's think a little bit about what can we add to the website. So bacon is something that is cooked in different flavors in all around the world. So why not provide the users with a possibility to show their recipes and share the way how they cook bacon. And that's what we're going to do. Let's create a new page. The only thing I need to do is click to this button And now you can see that we are provided with a form with a variety of options. So let's first give it a title. I will just call it recipes. We can change its URL or also enable multiple URLs for this item. But we don't need it right now. We can even decide if we want to show it in the navigation or not. We can choose the title for search engines and decide which template we want to use. I have already created a template for our website, but you can see that we have the opportunity to use a variety of templates already in Sitefinity, and they're built in. I'll go with the one that I have created. Just click Done. Here you can see that we have some further options to set descriptions or keywords, which will make our page more easily identifiable by search engines. We can have even advanced options, like for example to disable indexing of the page, and also some options in terms of caching, like this. I will just click Create. And now our page is ready. So let's see what we can do with it. Right now you can see that we have this navigation and the footer, which are inherited from the template that I have created. On the right side, we can see that we have a variety of widgets to choose from. For example, the ones with the specific content types, the content block widget, we have the news widget and the image gallery widget, which are used on the homepage. We can add additional JavaScript and CSS to our page if you want to. And we also have some more, like for example, the social share widget, search widget if we want to make a search page for our website. The next section on the right is called layout, and this is where our layout widgets live. You can see that we are provided with a variety of options in order to choose how our page is going to be displayed. So right now I have just a container here, and whatever I put inside it, it will appear. And let's try to split it. For example, I will choose the widget which is grid 4 to 8. If I insert it right here, that right now I can see that my section is split. And I can go even further. For example, let's add this widget inside this widget. That way we have a complete control over how our page is being displayed, and we can control the positioning of the widgets with just using the mouse. There's no code required for that. But for now, I will just keep things simple. I remove the additional widgets that I have added, and I'm left with just this one. If I click Edit, you can see that I can decide to put some additional CSS classes to these sections and to style them separately if I want to. If these classes are familiar to you, it's not a coincidence because the layout widgets in Sitefinity are based on Twitter's Bootstrap library. And these are just the classes which get put on these sections in order to achieve this grid-like layout. So now let's go and add some content to my page. Now again, I go to the content menu and let's add just a simple image. For doing it, I need to drag and drop the image widget into the section in which I want it to appear. If I click Select, Sitefinity will open the images from my libraries. And right now you can see that I can choose from all of the images that I have already uploaded to my website. But I can classify the images by library if I want to. So let's, for example, choose the default library and pick this one. Click done. Save it. And you can see that it already appeared. And for this section, I want to add some social media links. And let's go to the social section and see that Sitefinity has a social share widget. The only thing I need to do is just drop it right here, and you can see that my social share icons have appeared. Let's see what this widget is capable of. Let's click on Edit, and here we have many options to choose from. So for example, I want to remove this link and add some additional links here, and I can also choose a different template for the widget. So right now it's being rendered using the social share template, but I can also use the templates which contains icons with text. It's important to note here that we can also write our custom templates for all of the widgets inside Sitefinity. So now let's click Save, and you can see that my layout has changed and the links have appeared in a different way. And now I can publish my page. And let's see what we have done. Let's go to the live site and just refresh it. Our page has appeared already. Let's visit, and you can see that everything that we have added is right here. But there are no recipes over there. So what are we going to do right now is just create some recipes. But here we have a problem, because Sitefinity doesn't have a content type which is called recipes. And now is the time to introduce you to something very powerful and flexible in Sitefinity, which are the dynamic modules. The dynamic modules in Sitefinity allow us to build our own custom content types. So let's see them in action. I'll open the backend and choose from the administration dropdown the module builder. So let's go and see what happens. We have not created modules yet, so let's just click on create module. And let's give it a name. I'll call it recipes. Click continue, and now we're provided with the menu to choose what our content type is going to look like. So we'll give it a name. It's important to note here that a module can have several content types, and they can also be organized in hierarchies. So I'll just call this content type recipe. It has no parent content type, and we can see that it has already a title field, which is of type short text. So let's add some more fields. If I click on this, you can see here that we can give a name to our field, and let's call it preparation time. So from this drop-down, we are allowed to choose the type of our field, and we are provided with a variety of options. This one will be of type number, and I can also decide the control with which it's going to appear. For now, we have only the option of the text box, so let's click continue. Now we can also choose a unit. For example, we'll measure the preparation time in minutes. We can make it required if we want to, and we can also set some limitation. For example, it cannot be less than 1. When click done, we have created our own custom field. So let's create two more. The first one will be instructions. The type for it will be long text, and I will edit it using the rich text editor. If I click continue and done, I've added the third field from my content item. So let's add the final one, and it will be an image. It's good to see the image of the recipe. It's not enough just to read about it. So let's create the field. Now we choose as a type the related media. We can choose between images, videos, and files, but for this one we'll use the images. Let's click continue, and we're done. So the only thing left to do is to activate the module. The modules in Sitefinity can be activated and deactivated. They can be exported and reused in other Sitefinity applications as well. So you can see nothing really changed right now. We don't have recipes yet, so we'll activate it. And now we have successfully included this dynamic module in our application. So let's go and add some content. I'll go to the recipes module, and while I wait it to load, I can just take some text from my recipe from the Bacon Ipsum website. We have not created the recipes yet, so let's do it. We'll give it a title. This will be our instructions. We can turn this into a list, for example, if we want to. These are the steps, for example. And let's give it an invalid preparation time to see if our validation is going to work. If I click publish, you can see that Sitefinity alerts me that I have inserted an invalid value in this field. So let's give it a valid one. The last thing that's left to do is to select an image for our recipe. So let's choose one. I will upload one from my computer, which I have prepared. Let's choose this one, upload it, and we're good to go. So let's publish the recipe. So the recipe is in the backend, it's published, but it's not on our page yet. As you can see, if I refresh it, it will just stay the same. So let's go and add it to the recipes page. I'll open the page from the backend. Choose it from the menu. And right here you can see that we have a new section added in the content widgets, which is called recipes. If I extend it, you can see that this is a widget for my dynamic module, which has been automatically generated by Sitefinity. And let's just add it to the page. We wait a little bit, and you'll see that our recipe has appeared. And if I click publish and just refresh my page, we should be good to go. Yeah, there's my recipe. Of course, it uses a default template by Sitefinity, that's why it doesn't look quite like the other types on the website, but we can always create our own custom templates, even for the dynamic modules. So let's see what we have if I click on the title. Now the detailed view has opened, and we see that we have some automatically generated layout for my recipe. We have the image right here, which we can open it, and we also have the text that we inserted. We have the preparation time, and here we can see the measurement unit as well. We can also comment it or not, and that's it. There are a few more things that I want to show you about the recipes. As you can see here, we have the same inline editing options that we had with the news items and with the pages overall. But let's go now to the backend and open our recipes page. Let's click edit on our widget and see what options do we have. You can see that it looks quite similar to the news widget. We have control over what gets displayed. We can update the list settings. We can use some limit or paging if you want to. We can decide on how these items are going to be sorted. And we can also choose a template, but currently we have only one, which was automatically generated. But if we add our own custom templates, they will appear in this drop-down. So now let's go to the module builder again. And now we'll see something very interesting, and it's more of a concern of the developers of Sitefinity. Let's go to recipes. Apart from everything Sitefinity has already done for us, we also have something very useful here on the right. We can see the code references for these recipes. If we are developers and want to do something with this module using code, here it has generated for us some code snippets. And if you want to create a recipe using C# or if we use VB.NET as well, we can see some automatically generated code. And this is just the Sitefinity's native API in use. It even lists the usings that we need to include in our class in order to access its API. And this is pretty cool and also very useful, especially when develop large projects which have some custom modules and plugins. As for the templates, this is where the templates for our widgets live. If we go to design and choose widget templates option, we'll see that we get all the templates listed. And for the recipes, we have the list template and the detail template, which are based on ASP.NET MVC, which we're using completely for this project. And if I click on one of them, I'll see the code for this template right here. Of course, it's not a good idea to edit a template which has been automatically generated from the backend. If you want to create your own, it's of course better to write the template in a separate file and let Sitefinity include it for you. A more detailed explanation on that you can find on the documentation website. And that's it for the dynamic modules. So let's see now how Sitefinity helps us develop responsive websites. If I open the site and go to the home page, for example, it's already familiar to us. So let's try to shrink the width. I open it in a new window and let's see how does it scale. You can see that our images respond pretty well and also the navigation items fall under each other. So although it doesn't look quite perfect, we see that we still have some pretty good responsiveness and no content gets hidden from the user. And why does it work? It works because Sitefinity's layout widgets are based on Twitter Bootstrap, as we seen earlier. And we gain all of the advantages of using this framework if we decide to go with the MVC module. However, the ASP.NET Web Forms templates are not based on Bootstrap, so in order to build a responsive site using web forms, we need to do some extra work. And for that, let's log into the backend and see what we can do. We open the responsive and mobile design section. And here you can see that we can create some rules. If we open the menu, we can give a name for our rules, like for example, small device rules. And now we can choose what kinds of devices we are going to support. So as my title says, we are going to create rules for small devices. And let's see what options we have. We can transform the layout, or we can also open a specific mobile version of our site. But let's now focus on the layout. We can include a custom CSS file which will be loaded only when we open the site on a specific device which is listed above. And here you can see that we have some rules. So if we have, for example, two vertical columns, when we have a smaller device, they will look like this. And we can, for example, choose from these ones the way we want them to get arranged. It's very easy and flexible. The only thing that's left to do is just to add it in the page. Of course, it's important to note that this module works only if you decide to go with web forms as your layout engine for Sitefinity. The final part of the demo will be related to Sitefinity's security and permission options. So let's go to the backend and see what we can do. I will open the administration dropdown and access the user section. Let's see what we've got. Here, Sitefinity has listed all of the users in the system. The administrator is the user with which I'm logged in right now, and I've created just a dummy user to see how we can manage it. Here, we are provided with some basic fields, information about the user. We can reset the password if we have the rights to do it. We can also assign different roles to this user. For example, let's make him an editor. We click Save and our changes get applied. Nothing very special here, but let's go to roles. For example, we need to introduce a new role if the ones that are introduced by default in Sitefinity are not enough for us. We can very easily create a custom role by just filling it this field and clicking Create. You can see that our role has been already added to the list. And we can assign users to this role. So let's, for example, set this custom role to the guest user. We click Save and our changes get applied. If we open the permission sections, for example, we see how we can make use of all these roles and users. Here on the left, you can see all of our content types in Sitefinity, and we can decide custom roles for this content. So let's, for example, go to the news. Here we can see who can view the news, and we can even restrict it.
So if you don't want everyone to see the news, we just have to change it. And we are provided with options to choose from. But we can also explicitly deny the rights for specific roles or even users to view news items. This goes also with the creation of news. We can, for example, restrict any users with any roles the rights to do any kinds of operation on these content items. And it's not just for the static modules, but we can see that we have rules for the dynamic modules as well. This is the module that we have created, and you can see that Sitefinity has generated some default rules for publishing, viewing, and editing recipes on the backend. And now the final part, let's go and see what the approval workflows are all about. If we open the section, we'll see that we can define our own custom workflow. So let's click on it. We decide to be just one level workflow. That means that the steps are following, the item is being edited, and then it's published for approval. And if it gets approved, then it gets published on the website. So let's see what we can do. First of all, we'll just give a name for our workflow. And now we'll set some roles or users who will have the responsibility to approve these items. So if I choose this user, for example, that means that whenever an item gets published, this user will be required to either approve or disapprove it, otherwise it won't get published to the website. And let's see, we can select a specific content which will be prone to approval. And if I, for example, want to restrict publishing of news items, I can just check it. If I click done, now currently, if a news item is going to be published, it will have to be approved from this specific user right now. We can activate or deactivate the workflow, and if I click save, now it's already in action. In the end, I'd like to share you some learning resources. These are websites which I, as a developer, visit on a daily basis, and probably the most important one is the Sitefinity's official documentation. As you can see here, the website is very well organized and divided into topics, and here you can see, for example, articles which explain how to do some common things with Sitefinity. The part that I like most is also that if you are using a specific version of the CMS, you can choose for which one to see the documentation available. And this is a very useful thing, in my opinion. Also, we can search, and we have a section which lists the best practices for using the CMS, which I highly recommend. Another useful resource is our blog on newventuresoftware.com/blog. You can see some articles. Usually when we hit an interesting technical issue and we find a good solution for it, we like to share that with the community. So you can take a look at our articles. They are not all Sitefinity related. We have plenty about Microsoft Azure and also Kendo UI. Another website which I really like is the Developer Network Knowledge Base. This is clearly a website which is suitable for more experienced users and developers and covers some more advanced scenarios of Sitefinity, Still a great resource though. Sitefinity Insider, on the other hand, is a also well interesting general purpose website in which you can find some useful articles about Sitefinity. In the end, I have shared the URL for the Sitefinity's GitHub user group, and here you can see some of the modules of the CMS which are actively developed and are open source. For example, if you are new to Feather, you can check out this Feather samples repository, which contains some sample projects built with Sitefinity Feather. You can run them on your machine and just see how they're implemented. Also, the whole Feather module is also open source and on GitHub, so you can track its development and report issues and even contribute with some code from yourself. And that's it. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope that you have enjoyed the presentation. Bye bye and take care.